Hello everybody, welcome back to Minor League Esports. Over here on the second stream, I am Junior PQ, and I'm joined alongside my wonderful co-caster Grant. And we just watched the Hives and Hurricane play in the Academy League. Now we've got a doubleheader between these two teams. It's going to be a 2v2 match in the Champion League. Grant, how are you doing today, man? What can you tell us about this matchup?
We're doing good. I can tell you a couple things. First of all, Hive and Hurricanes, two of my favorite franchises, going head-to-head in Champion League, which, hey, one of my favorite leagues because I was there for so long. That's where I spent all last season, spent a little bit of this season. Now we're moving on to bigger and better things, and hopefully we get to see these teams do just that. Go big or go home. I'm looking to see some high-flying action. I want to see some solid connecting plays, passing plays. I just want to see how spicy it gets here in the Champion League.
No, absolutely. It's gonna be a good match to say the least. The Champion League, obviously, a little bit higher tier than what we just watched. But between these two teams, it's a tale of two different storylines. Hurricanes right now are 15-5 and 6th in the Champion League doubles standings, and Hive, they're 7-13. They're 30th, towards the bottom half of that table, actually closer to the very bottom of that. So it's gonna be Hyper and Barnabas on the Hurricanes versus Rogers and Moxon. If I'm the Hive right now, I'm looking for games right here because having a less than positive record certainly hurts your chances, and what better place to take them than against a team like the Hurricanes, who have got to be feeling confident coming into this series.
Yeah, obviously you want to go for the 5-0. That's everybody's ideal, best case situation, scenario, whatever. But it's not always going to happen, right? So you have to prepare yourself for failure because things might not go the way you expect them to tonight. You may be walking in here looking for games, thinking you're everything, thinking you're the best, and then things just go totally lopsided. Then what do? What's the mentality? Who has any idea? Obviously coming in here as the technical underdog, we're going to have some question marks, but I'm excited to see whether or not the Hive can actually pull it together and throw it up against the Hurricanes.
I got to ask you, though, Grant, who do you think's going to win this one? Do you think the Hurricanes have the better shot or the Hive in this matchup?
I think I'm going to go with the Hurricanes. Honestly, I don't know why, but Hurricanes have always just looked good in the Minor League Esports League, so I think I'm just going to put that as my bold prediction from my gut.
Well, if you're going to bet on the Hurricanes, then I think I got to bet on the Hive. If there's any chance for them to take games off, it's right now, and it kicks off right here in game number 1. The kickoff immediately going in favor of the Hive, but Hyper will stabilize, start to find the dribble, create some space downfield. It's a nice save by Moxon to keep it away, but Barnabas is going to look to keep the attack going.
This is a good pairing from the Hive as well. Barnabas and Hyper were two players that I believe I faced off against in threes, and I think they took us down 4-1, so definitely on the lookout to see how they perform in 2v2. Barnabas has a nice catch on the back half, taking it up the wall. Good 50 with a Hive defender, leaving Moxon all alone. This is where 2v2 can be so dangerous. You get these 1v1 scenarios. However, Moxon is able to handle it pretty well in the opening moments. Barnabas with another equally good save.
We've seen these teams trade blows a little bit. Rogers and Moxon have found themselves a few opportunities. Barnabas and Hyper have found some of their own, but that miss by Hyper, or rather Barnabas, is going to spell disaster. They thankfully get that one away and keep it in their control for the time being, but that was a scary one at that. You do not want to be giving over free opportunities like that, especially in this first minute of play.
Oh no, you want to keep the ball as close to you as possible, force out some touches. You know, we saw the Hurricanes kind of bait in, we'll call it calculated. They baited in a play, got a offender to commit on the offensive end, but we saw nothing come of it. We're looking for those counterattacks. One of the first things I mentioned is these quality connections that we've got to see in Champion League. That really separates these good teams from the great teams. However, Moxon down to the right side. Rogers waiting back, does get the clear and takes it out to the side. Barnabas is up to the ceiling for it. Once the pinch, looks at the double instead. Waterfall down, caught by Moxon. Hyper back on it, up top. Rogers thought about 50ing, expelled, a little bit of boost on the back side. Hyper's up, doesn't want to continue the dribble. Moxon right back out. Barnabas, everybody just trying to get a hold of the ball. They're not so confident on the way that they can handle it, and they are kind of hesitating a little bit as well.
If anybody's confident in their possession of the ball, it was the Hurricanes right there, just keeping it down in the Hive's half for the majority of the time for that last minute or so. But now we're seeing the Hive break out of their shell just a little bit. They're getting these back corner boost steals. It's opening up the field a lot. It's not allowing the Hurricanes to to break out of this offensive or defensive spiel rather. So as this ball continues into the corner, the Hive are looking to heat up a little bit and are trying to swarm the defense, at least get something going. Boost is low on the Hurricanes, but they've managed to work the ball out. It's going to be an attempt by Hyper, but he's not able to find anything off the back of it. It's crazy we've seen half the game so far. I was going to say we haven't seen a goal yet, but that double commit, rather team bump right there spells the first for the Hurricanes.
Not only spells the first, but spells Caster's Curse, or maybe we can even call it a spell. Hyper just gets a free net to shoot on, takes it to the house, 1-0, right as you're about to say it. It wasn't going to seem like anything was going to happen until it did, and caught everybody by surprise.
Yeah, but if you're the Hurricanes right there, that's exactly what you're looking for. Just finding a goal, whether or not it was wide open or not. 1-0 on the scoreboard is a sight to be happy about. And they're even keeping this possession, moving down into the Hive half again, making sure they can just hold on to the ball. Moxon will break them out, at least find some space at that. These teams have traded blows a lot. It's a pretty neutral game. Really, the only thing separating these teams has been that unforced error that the Hive just committed that will just gave them the first goal.
Right, you have the errors, you have the boost steals as well, working in effect. Here's an error, we're going to have to watch it back because blink and you miss it. Moxon's in the back of the goal.
Yeah, that's just a really aggressive challenge by Barnabas, and then, well, the entire net's wide open. You'll see a lot of those down here in doubles just because of how open the field can be when only 4 people are on there. Yeah. But, I mean, 1-1, it's a good equalizer as well. I feel like we haven't seen these teams really duel it out just yet. Both goals coming on the back of errors, and it doesn't seem like they've been outplaying just yet. But it is game number 1. These teams are feeling each other out, making sure that they can work the ball forward, making sure that they can at least see the gameplay of their opponents. But 90 seconds left. We haven't determined a victor just yet. It's a nice flick by Hyper. He'll have some space to work with, but not that much boost in the tank. Looking for the 50 and puts it off the post. Great play by Hyper to just dribble it all the way down the field and puts in the second for the Hurricanes.
Oh yeah, you love to see these first flick plays and then a 50 on the powerhouse of Hyper. You mentioned, I mean, Hurricanes, they get a little feisty sometimes, but so do the Hive. They want to get these challenges early, but it's not a threes game. 2v2 can kind of be played off like a 1v1 with an extra player. It's just however you can handle it, however you can bait in these 1v1 scenarios. Here we see another one that are going to work to your advantage. Rogers plays it out, though, to Barnabas, who catches it, sends it backwards. Waiting on their teammate to come in. We would hope that it'd be a little bit quicker, but Hyper allows Moxon to push in a little bit. Rogers on the back end, 1v1 scenario again. This will happen so often. Hyper has beat everybody and somehow finds the angle on the landing to extend the lead for 2.
Hyper with these dribble plays, man, has been phenomenal. That's a great touch and even better recovery. Puts it in just right in front of Moxon. The rotation was there, but right now we've really seen the Hurricanes start to spin up a little bit. The velocity and the speed of play that's coming out is absolutely incredible. It's why they have the advantage. No longer are they on the back, or the goal is on the back of errors, but they're on the back of some great plays by Hyper. He's even going to look for a third one right there. Can't quite find it. Now here comes the counterattack. It's going to be a second for the Hive as Moxon carries it over everyone, puts it in the back of the net.
Again, the feistiness of the Hurricanes really biting them in the back here. Moxon, really good carry to get to the other end. Play of the week, perhaps. We'll have to see where that lines up in contention. Hive, though, catching up. They're only 1 goal behind. If they can get this one right here, Rogers has the opportunity. We've seen Hive with the aerial play being those high flyers, but don't sleep on Hyper. They've got the angel wings for a reason. We've seen them fly over balls to catch them back and go for those solo plays, so keep your eyes locked on them. However, this one's going to go right out to midfield, caught by Moxon, sent back in. I think Caster's Curse has really gotten to everybody today.
It absolutely has, but just look at Moxon's angle right here. It's almost like a partial half flip to get the best possible touch on that. That's just a great find and a great equalizer at that going into the final 25 seconds. However, looking to send us to overtime here. And the Hurricanes, they were starting to pick up the pace a little bit. They just weren't able to hold on to it for as long as they wanted to. That double tap by Hyper almost finds its way into the back of the net, but now it's a solo play for Rogers, looking for the dribble, trying to fake out Barnabas, gets the 50. Hyper steps in. It's an open net in the Hive half, but no one can get back. Everybody's bumped out. 3 seconds remaining. Rogers will try to get a hold of this, find the demo instead. It looks like we're headed to overtime unless something absolutely bonkers happens. It's not going to be the case. 3-3 overtime here in game number 1, and we're already having a feisty matchup to say the least.
Rogers looks like they've had several good attempts, but Moxon's going to be the one to finish it. 6 seconds is all it took. Whether you like it or not, that's how this one plays out. Unfortunate touch into the clutches of Hive, who take this first game.
And Hurricanes are absolutely going to be frustrated with this one. They have the better record. They had the possession. They had a lot of offensive opportunities. I believe that they led on shots as well. No, it was pretty even. It was 9 shots to 8 shots, but still, the Hurricanes had so much continued offensive pressure, and the Hive capitalized off of a missed touch in overtime. It's a good goal at the end of the day. It's a great win to find for the Hive, but the Hurricanes are certainly going to be frustrated, at least with their level of play at the start of that overtime.
Right. I think my biggest concern is just this 1v1 play that we keep seeing. We see somebody who's just pushing the ball. Again, it's not like threes. You can't sacrifice your players so often because you leave your only teammate back to defend on their own. They're left to their own devices, and that is a fault of a lack of team play. So we need to see everybody working together, not necessarily going for those pass plays. However, when you can find those connections, it makes you very scary, makes you look good, makes you feel good, and you'll get good results from it. You get those pass plays going, you get goals from it, you get the pressure going. I'm just really looking to see how people work together as a team. This 1v1 stuff isn't going as well because most of the time, the first man's not going for a 1v1. They're just going for a mindless challenge, leaving everything exposed.
You're spot on there, Grant. The solo plays are definitely not going to be the saving grace of either of these teams. We saw moments of brilliance out of Hyper, but that's certainly what they cannot rely on. They have to start working the ball around the field, getting those team plays like you were talking about. And as we hop into game number 2, if you had told me that the 6th place team and the 30th place team in the Champion League would have that close of a game number 1, I would have called you crazy. But it's what we're seeing right now. Clock starts to tick down here in game number 2, and Hive, they're already going to put it back in the Hurricanes half off the backboard. It's awkward. The shot comes through, but now it's a double commit. This could go back the other way, but there's no boost for the Hurricanes. They stall for just a second in their corner to regain their speed.
No boost for the Hurricanes, no boost for the Hive right now. Really struggling on their own half. Rogers has to circle back around, get this one scooped out of here. They're struggling to push it. Now they finally succeed. Hyper on the way back catches it just barely enough to take it to the wall. Rogers cuts him off at the half. Back up to the corner. Barnabas is out. Sidewall. Moxon back in. They have some boost to finish this one. They go for the shot, blocked by a defender, but it's floating down. Barnabas catches it and moves it out of the danger zone. Now their turn for an air dribble. Will they go for it? Yes, they will. It's a back touch. Hyper tries to advance. Moxon out of boost. And we've mentioned this boost game over and over again. There is so much boost on the field, a lot more than if you would have put them into a 3v3 scenario, in which case I'd actually be concerned for the level of boost that we see both of these sides going for. I think everybody's trying to just have their hands on all the boost they can, but totally neglecting the boost lanes as well.
Yeah, they're not exactly... The boost control hasn't been as primarily as a focus in this mode as much as it is in Standard, but I think that they are starting to find some control. We're seeing Moxon get the midfield boost, and that's at least alleviating the pressure on their own net. That's a bad touch by Barnabas as this stays down here. Hyper beats them all again with a solo play. His dribbles have been phenomenal so far. Pass off the backboard shot by Barnabas, puts it right in the bottom corner. 1-0 Hurricanes, again starting off with an early lead.
Behind the back is the best place to put the ball. Moxon can't do anything about it because they aren't covering that ground. They forget to go back post here, or maybe it's what we've been seeing with this speed thing. Even on behind the goal, we covered this with the whole need for speed segment, going so fast, always being supersonic, keeping your momentum. Sometimes the only point I made for that entire segment was you'll find yourself keeping that momentum too long, you find yourself on the near post. That's exactly the mistake we saw, exactly what I outlined. Now Rogers has a free goal shoot on, but Barnabas was able to get back in time.
At the very least, Hive are rebounding off the back of it. You never want to be caught near post, but at least they're stepping up. They're working the ball down the field, and they've put Hurricanes in a bit of a defensive stint for the time being. Hyper's going to be up for this, at least try to touch it away, but Moxon is just being the brick wall at the midfield line, not letting it cross whatsoever, not letting the turn of possession happen. Finally, a deep clear by Hyper will start to spell the end of that offensive onslaught, but Moxon will immediately knock it back. Hive right now, they have the majority of the control on the field. They're keeping the ball down in the green half, and right now the Hurricanes are just begging to see the other half of the field, but the Hive just aren't letting them.
No, they haven't been letting them get away with much, and that's really good to see. Hive just need to get their first opportunity, but can't get control from Moxon. Barnabas moves it down. Rogers is right there, bumped out of the way as they went up to the skies. Moxon will deflect it to the left-hand side for Barnabas to take back in. Hive really need to focus up on where their opponents are on the field, get some clears into empty space if they can, and take all the time they can get. Hyper expels a lot of boost today as they missed the demo. This is one of the biggest issues. As they hog the boost, they expend it all at one go, and they're left with nothing, stuck on their back end. It's only a matter of time before the Hive break through.
And that's exactly why midfield boost control is so important. If you air dribble off your backboard, you're going to find yourself in a bit of an awkward spot. Moxon doesn't need much to tap this one into the bottom corner. Just this onslaught went on for far too long. The siege started to tear down at the walls of Hurricanes defense, and now the Hive have found themselves an equalizer with 1:45 left to go.
Clean goal as well. 143. This is plenty of anybody to score, so I don't think we're going to be looking at overtime today, especially if the save doesn't go in their favor, and it doesn't. Hyper. Again, the whole 6-second thing in overtime appears in game 2.
Yeah, Rogers right here gets caught on the backboard, just flips. Yeah, it's so fresh. It's so heartbreaking to see. I feel like I've seen that in my own games, just about every other game, just missing that off the backboard. But it is enough for the Hurricanes to find it. It's a great pickup right there. Just to commit members forward, you have to score when the net's that open. That's exactly what the Hurricanes have done. And they're even looking for a comfort goal at that. But the Hive are not letting them. The passing plays coming out, just not able to connect. Midfield boost control will start to be gained by the Hurricanes, but Hyper gives up possession before he can do anything with it.
The biggest thing in CL is this whole boost thing. I know we've stressed it so much and the audience is getting tired of it, but you'll never get tired of plays like this from Rogers, dunking it off the defending car. Phenomenal placement, phenomenal field smarts.
Yeah, I thought that Hyper was going to flip into that, maybe get a bit of a stronger touch, but Rogers just decides to jump with the ball as well, puts it in the back of the net. 2-2, we're closing down. I know you said, Grant, that you feel like we're not going to be seeing it overtime, but these teams are just playing at such an equal skill level. They're just fighting for the lead right now, taking it back and forth like a toy on a playground. Hyper puts it off the backboard, and Barnabas is there to clean it up.
I think you're casters cursing the Hive, and I'm casters cursing the Hurricanes. Like we said, this has been getting in the way, but every time we say something, something's always going to happen in the reverse way we would expect it to. Maybe Barnabas can turn things around. Maybe they can secure game 2. They'll throw it away, leaving it for Moxon, who takes it back across field. Hyper already there to meet it. Rogers waiting, has their opportunity, has a chance, keeps going, beats out Barnabas. Hurricanes on the retreat. Hyper plays it back into their corner, into a bit of a safe zone for now, but Rogers has been all over this ball. Unrelenting pressure from the Hive. They want to keep the pace going because that clock is getting closer and closer to 0 and tension is rising.
And not only is the clock going closer and closer to 0, but they are also incredibly low boost. Barnabas has just picked up a full boost at the end of that. Hyper found the back corner as well. So they were on like 10 boosts for the entirety of that defensive stint, but they survive at the end of it. And the pass play comes out. They make the most of the opportunity. They have a low boost on defense, turned into the high boost on offense. 20 seconds left, and 2 goals now to find if the Hive want to send us to overtime.
The biggest thing I've seen from the Hive are these ball side rotations. It is one of the most obvious mistakes, but one of the most difficult habits to break. You always want to make those full rotations back to defense. As much as it hurts, as much as it sucks, as much as you want to get involved back in the play, that's the best way you're going to help out your teammate. You got to think long term. You can't think short term. This momentum battle and the battle for pace, speed, agility, whatever, has become such a huge problem right now for the Hive, and Hurricanes have done such a really good job at punishing each and every one. Moxon's going to get one for the road, coming about as close to the floor as you can get without missing.
Yeah, it's a good goal to take home with and at least put in your to-go box moving into game number 3. But the Hurricanes come out on top, and they equalize the series up as we go into the swing game here in game number 3. Quite frankly, it came down to Hive making some mistakes on their backboard and not capitalizing on the opportunities that they had that ended up spelling their demise. It felt like they were on offense for so much. They matched the Hurricanes in shots, but they just weren't able to turn them inside that rectangle, that beautiful green rectangle, at least as much as they needed to. 4-3, still a close scoreline. You can still see these teams duking it out, but Hurricanes are going to come out on top in this one.
Yeah, like I said, really close, really good job from the Hurricanes to be able to punish Hive. I just want to see those better rotations. It seems to be the story right now. Hurricanes, I had the series standing in my head, and now it's gone. So we're just going to play it off like we're even though we probably might not be. I'm just going to point the mistakes out how they are. Hive, they just need to fully rotate. That's just about as plain and simple as it gets. Everybody needs to hold on to boost. And Hurricanes, if you want to win, keep on going, keep punishing, do what you're doing best. You're doing a great job. And I think they could take the series at this rate.
Yeah, Hurricanes definitely had a look in this game that was more like what we saw, at least in their record going into this series. But Hive challenged that in the first game. Hurricanes came bouncing back. They equalized it. Now we find ourselves on Forbidden Temple in game number 3, which is really the swing game in this series. If you can take control of this game, then, well, you can take control of the entire series. Obviously, winning this game means you go up 2-1. Normally, teams come in, well, 2-0, maybe 0-2, and then they take the majority of the games after this one, but they're certainly not going to be taking it home. Rogers, no!
What?
Doesn't make contact, and it's
What?
the strangest play I've seen in Champions League, but Moxon comes out with a goal.
It looked like it was so sure that Hyper might have actually given up prematurely here. I can't confirm that. Yeah, they were on their way back. I have no idea, but what a weird defense that Hurricanes were whipping up on there. I'm not sure how that one came to be, but sometimes Rocket League is just a confusing game. It just does some things that you don't normally or typically expect, like that. Hyper pinches it off the wall and their teammate at the same time, advancing into offense. Barnabas with the continue. Moxon on the back, has a double maybe. No, they miss. Out of boost, gets the steal. Hyper flick up high, back wall. Hyper again, can't reach it. Barnabas clears out. Hyper, can they take over? Yes, they do. Rogers backs off, has the turn here. And this is the great thing about twos, having so much space to work with, having so much airspace to occupy, can't get it on target, and they'll have to wait for their next attack.
Yeah, but Hive are not letting them cross midfield whatsoever. More of this control like we were talking about in between games. It's so crucial at this level. And Hyper and Barnabas are just holding on by a thread right now. Rogers is continuing this off the backboard. It's a nice touch by Hyper, at least to alleviate the pressure, but Moxon is stepping on the throat once again. Finally, the Hurricanes, they will break out, but at what cost? Such low boost finery replenished down in their opponent's half. But now it's a long shot. Is it on target? No, it's going to be off the post. Barnabas can sweep in, get the clear. At least keep possession of it. It's starting to get a little bit dicey for the Hurricanes here, and it's not something you like to see, especially when the Hive have such a numerical advantage as of right now.
Yeah, you don't want to be down and not doing too hot. Barnabas misses the demo. Again, just throwing yourself at the ball almost mindlessly without any care or without any reason to. They're trying to just put on unnecessary pressure, but that's a strat that should be better saved for 3v3. I've stressed it enough. We'll leave it alone for now. Hyper on the back, pass back to Barnabas, finds the connection and places it behind. The same issue we see with the Hive. Pushing up the near post, containing their momentum is what needs to happen from here on out.
Talk about a pass from Hyper and a half right there. I mean, if you talk about creating space, that's exactly how you do it. Changing the angle as quickly as you can say goal, and well, that's exactly what the Hurricanes have found. Now, 2 minutes in, we're already seeing these teams equalized. Again, I certainly did not anticipate this series being as close as it is, but they are continuing to duel it out, trade blows all the way across the field. Moxon finds himself with another open shot. The defense for both of these teams has been questionable at times, and that's where they've capitalized on each other.
Well, in this situation, though, Hive have felt like they are smooth sailing to the net each and every time. The punishment has been the biggest decider. It's all about who makes less mistakes, because at this rate, everybody punishes it every time, almost 100%. Okay, as I say it, of course, Hive are going to miss the ball. Rogers heads back for the boost, none to grab. Now they're both suffering with no boost. Hive need to get out of here. This is so dangerous for them to be here right now. Hyper's got all the boost in the world to work with. Shouldn't have gone for that, though. They should have known they got beat. Barnabas will collect their boost on the back wall. No pinch clear. Hyper, double commit. This is an open shot for Moxon, but it's not quick enough or high enough. Hyper backs out. Hurricanes need that communication. They'll go eventually. Not too much space. Rogers patient enough to get this one going back the other way. Another flick. Not successful. Moxon chasing it back. Just going to wait this one out. Chill. Take a breather. They've got a lot of space to work with. I do like that Hive are trying to control the pace of the match, especially right now when they're in the lead. Moxon's got a difficult save. There's no chance that they were going to be able to get to that one. Phenomenal pass again from Hyper.
Oxen just gets kind of caught ball watching right here. It's like he doesn't realize, like, oh, this could be incredibly dangerous. Maybe just did not recognize that that could be such an open opportunity at that. The score equalized up once again as both these teams are just living for overtime right now. A demo onto Moxon as he can't find the clear. Barnabas puts in a third for the Hurricanes as this is just a strange series inside and out, Grant.
Stole the words from my mouth. I was going to say peculiar, but we'll take those as well. This one just, it doesn't make any sense how back and forth it is, how open the net can be at times, how many mistakes there can be, how many unnecessary pushes, but everything is still keeping itself close. It's also bizarre adding on the fact with everybody's seeds. What did you say, 6 and 20th? Something along those lines. A huge spread in terms of standings, but that's just what we get for early season. We have to wait for the standings to stabilize as we play more and more games. It's only week 4, but Rogers doesn't have a weak shot here. Hyper carrying it back around, has the flick. So much time to work with. Oh yes, sir, 90 degrees and to the house.
What a beautiful play. Counterattack at that. Keeps it on the hood of the Fennec and just uses the Angel Wings to his advantage. Top corner. What better flick can you ask for in that scenario? 4-2, and well, it's continuing to be a strange series, but at least we're seeing some good goals out of it, specifically that one from Hyper. You were talking about how the spread in the rankings is a bit different. Hurricanes are 6th right now at 15-5, and the Hive are 7-13 at 30th right now. So it's as big, about as big of a spread as you can ask for. This is the only one where we've seen, really a dominant advantage coming out right now. It's not even that. It's not even that dominant at that.
No, it's so strange. I was going to say 30, but I second-guessed myself. It just happens. We're down 2 goals, though, for Hive. Hopefully they can turn this around, but going up against what appears to them as a giant or a titan of sorts can be a little bit intimidating. I'm unsure of series score. I'll check it eventually. We'll get myself under control, but can the Hive get the game under control? They've got the offensive pressure off the corner. Rogers to midfield, cut off by Barnabas. We're starting to see Hurricanes pick up the speed, pick up the pace. They know how valuable that can be in 2v2. Moxon with a miss on the boost. Can Hyper circle back around for this? They'll prioritize the ball, which should allow a Hive player. No, they just get it out. The Hyper's just goaded, all right? He takes the boost, gets the ball, does whatever he wants, and holds the sleeve for Hurricanes. Now he's just hugging the ball to the wall. Can't get anything of it, but Hurricanes have enough pressure to go for the rest of this game. I think they're going to secure it.
Yeah, it's coming down to the waning seconds, and the chances for the Hives are being cut down second by second. Now 10 seconds to find 2 goals is incredibly unlikely at that, especially when the Hurricane keep coming in with this offense. The pressure is just too much. The bumps are coming through. Hurricanes step up. They get their 3rd goal advantage right now, 5-2 and 4 seconds remaining.
This is peak Hurricane pressure moments right here in Game 3. 4 seconds to go. Like I said, they were going to secure it eventually. They actually make it happen in front of our eyes, and they'll be taking Game 3 happily, giving them at least 2 game wins. That I am sure of. We'll go ahead and we'll check what's going on, what the series score is, because I have no idea. It's 2-1. That's what we're going to. Finally, the ball hits the ground. I've got my stuff together, but Hive have yet to get theirs together. Once again, those full rotations were something I was talking about. That team play is really going to benefit from rotations.
Yeah, it's okay, Grant. You're absolutely killing it. Right now, the Hive, I think you're precisely on the point. I think the rotations have definitely been a sore spot right now for the Hive. You mentioned it earlier on in the game, how they were constantly keeping that momentum going forward, and it was always hitting them up on the near post. That's something you cannot afford to continue to do, especially at the Champion League at that. Now, we find ourselves in game number 4. We're winding down at this series. Hive, with probably their weakest game so far, they do lose it 5-2. Hurricanes coming out and scoring some great goals at that, but you kind of got to sort through the strangeness, and you've got to find your way to make the most of what you've got. It's something we've seen the Hurricanes do. We've seen them work the solo plays and the passing plays both in this exact same game. Hive right now just look a little bit misguided. We don't quite know what their plan is. If they can solidify that, if they can come into game 4 with a solid answer to the question that is the Hurricanes, it's going to be a much different game, maybe more akin to what we saw in game number 1.
Right. I think if they could just get everything going, get that team play flowing, I think we're going to see a lot more success from them, because that game felt like an off game by by just all means. It didn't feel like the Hive were playing to the way that they wanted to. They didn't feel like themselves. So they're going to have to regroup, retry, which is very frustrating, especially when you're going to Game 4, because you got to be so tough for this one if you want to take 2 games back-to-back. You got to have a mind space that is clearer as the day, and we'll see what they're able to do with it. But right now, they're getting outclassed, outperformed, outpaced by the Hurricanes. Just a case-in-point example here. Barnabas starting off with some heat.
Yeah, it seems like the Hive have somewhat run out of juice here. I mean, first 10 seconds and already giving up a bit of a lackluster defense that turns into a great opening goal for Barnabas for the Hurricanes. So 1-0. I mean, this early on, I think that's one of the earliest goals we've seen so far in this series. And it just seems like the Hive want to wind down, but this is not the time to wind down. There's still the chance to take home the majority of the games. You've got one. You still have the chance to get some more. It's off the crossbar. The follow-up comes in from Moxon. Now they're stepping up. Now they're getting into it. First 30 seconds, we've got an equal scoreline once again.
It's what you mentioned early on in the series, trying to go for these weird dribble plays off your back wall and being unsuccessful, where Hive are able to capitalize on these mistakes. So Hive now have noticed a pattern, and they've got to keep their eyes peeled for that instead. Not only do they have to straighten up themselves, they're going to play how they want to play, but they've got to look out for these defensive errors on Hurricanes. Apply that pressure, get those shots. You know that's how you crack, so why wouldn't they crack the same way? Maybe here, if Rogers can get their hands on the boost, they'll find some goals, but they can't readjust, they can't recover on the offensive end, and they'll suffer the consequences to wait another day.
You can see the cogs turning there, just an unfortunate positioning right there. Puts them in a bit of an awkward spot, but that's not unfortunate. That's just an unforced error. Barnabas is going to have a shot, but goes for the pump instead. Hyper puts in another right there. 2-1. Hurricanes retake the advantage off some shoddy defense from the Hive.
Barnabas giving a stiff arm to Rogers on their way to the goal. Leaves it for Hyper, though. Says, you know what? I'll share this goal with you. Absolutely. Go ahead. Take it, my friend. They go up 1 goal. 4 minutes to go, though. Hive got to wrap their heads back into the game. You know, what I found out works. Okay, never mind. What I was going to say, not going to work. Barnabas is just going to power through.
Yeah, this is just an assertion of dominance right now for the Hurricanes. It's just the dunk on the goal line. Rogers caught rotating a bit too deep and just finds himself in an awkward 50 at that. 3-1. The Hive, they're not playing up to the standard that what we saw in game number 1. It puts them in not a good spot. Now down by 2 this early in the game. Certainly salvageable, but there's time is starting to tick down. You want to be winning this game if you even want to have a shot at taking home the majority of the games. Hyper going for more of these solo plays, and it's ending up to work out because we got Barnabas to pick it up at the end. 4-1. Hurricanes running away here in game number 4.
You can't do that to him, Barnabas. He has a family. Just straight up dusted the defender there. I feel bad watching that. That just hurts. That was too nasty. You need to calm down. Take a chill pill, Barnabas.
Yeah, and they find the 4th off the back of it, too. I mean, this is starting to give it to a point of disrespect, but you know what? At the end of the day, it's a great goal. It's a great find. Now 4-1. If you're the Hive, I think that something's got to change at that. The defense has looked a little bit out of sorts in terms of consistency, in terms of communication. I think it's definitely an area where they have to improve. Obviously, they have to improve their defense somehow. They're down by 3 goals, but I think that the communication has led to some awkward rotations, some miscommunications at that, and well, at the end of the day, being down by 3, there's still plenty of time. You could score a goal a minute and still get back into this in time for overtime, but they do need to start finding these goals. Seconds are ticking by, and Hurricanes really are showing no signs of letting up.
I think a replay review would certainly be helpful. I feel like the Hive they're a little bit off. They're a little bit lost, and I think some guidance could really help them out, especially right now. Hurricanes, again, building back on this pressure, but Hive, it's just all rotations, and it's a lot harder to just speak and try to explain than it would be to visualize. I'm no coach for the Hive, so I'll leave that to them. I'll give my thoughts the way that I can, but in the meantime, let's hope that Hive can just turn it around on their own, hold themselves to that high standard, keep these clears going. Hive, they've got a breakaway opportunity. I apologize for cursing it yet again. That one's just going to go away for now.
Yeah, like you were talking about earlier, if you're cursing the Hive, then I'm cursing the Hurricane. So I guess it balances out, perfectly balanced and neutralized. But more shots coming out of the Hive. We're seeing the offense ramp up just a little bit. Nice shot by Moxon, but it does have near the speed to best Hyper. They're keeping possession, though. It's certainly a positive. It took 2.5 minutes for the Hurricanes to score 4, and now you've got a little bit less than 2 to score 4. So a bit more of a challenge, but they're keeping things going. This offense, at the very least, is putting Barnabas and Hyper in an awkward spot. Both less than half boost. It's finally going to be a clear out, but Rogers isn't even going to allow that. Boost is so incredibly scarce. They're trying to help each other out. They're trying to get this ball out. They desperately want to cross midfield. Finally, a touch just a little bit strong enough, but oh no,
no way.
Fox has missed it. It's going to roll. It's going to bounce back. I don't know what's going on anymore, Grant. 4-1, and the Hive scrape away, almost concede an own goal there.
Yeah, I'm struggling to wrap my head around it as well. Hive had such a huge whiff that could have cost them. They're back on offense, though. They had the pressure rolling for a brief moment. We saw flashes of greatness in the Hive. The question is, can they finish out anything? They've managed to get 1 goal early on. They've fallen down 3 now. Oh, a little bit of bump play from the Hurricanes. Hyper's back up. Oh no, they'll back up literally here, back to their own net. Moxon with a fake. We know that the Hive are starting to slow things down, but I don't think they're recognizing as many patterns as we would like them to give them that game field advantage. Maybe when they watch the VOD back, they'll hear all these things and be like, all right, then we'll clap next week, you know what I'm saying? But as it stands right now, Hurricanes with the demo play, with the pressure, what we know them so well for right now, they continue to do so perfectly. And they might be taking this game as well, along with the rest of the series.
Yeah, 20 seconds, but separating the Hurricanes from finding the majority of the games right now. It's not a pretty sight for the Hive at that. They have a whole open field to dribble, but they flick way too early. They lose control at that. Moxon, he's going to put it off, but can't find the double tap. Rogers swoops in, puts it in the bottom corner. At the very least, Rogers does take one home for the road, but it comes on the back of just offensive, dare I say, failure. They had so much possession. The Hurricanes were giving them the entire field to shoot at. The problem was that they just couldn't turn it in when it mattered most. There were so many opportunities to equalize, at least get maybe one more on the board, but they're not able to find it. The clock's going to wind down. Hurricanes will be taking home the majority of the game, and Hive's certainly frustrated, but they're not done just yet.
No, they're not done at all. There's still one more game to pick off, and what we do here at MLE is we play all 5 games. Why, you ask? Because playoffs, it matters. That's how we do things. That's how we keep track. We do things by win percentage. We do things by record. Every game counts. There's still something to pick off. And whether or not it happens, it's still the current issue. It's still the current situation. That last game will matter no matter what. So there's nothing to give up on yet for the Hive. In fact, there's never anything to give up on. As long as you're doing your best, you'll get the results that you put in the work for. So Hive really need to straighten things around because they don't feel like themselves. Like we've talked about, they just feel, it feels off. It doesn't feel like there's any chemistry. It doesn't feel like there's anything really meshing well. And I'm really rooting for them to pull something together in this last game because at the end of the day, I want everybody to go home happy. You know what I'm saying, Junior?
No, exactly. If you have the chance to move in and at least give the teams like an equal showing, you want to see that. A 3-2 scoreline is a whole lot better than a 5-0 at that. It's the beauty of MLE that we go by these games, but coming from normally playing best of fives, it can be hard to wrap your mind around the concept of playing a game even though you're going to mathematically lose the series. Yeah. But it's also an opportunity for the Hive to step up. We've seen teams go in with the majority of games and just drop the ball, drop the egg on the game number 5. So we find ourselves here on Manfield. It's the final game of this series, and Hive and Hurricanes are looking to end off this doubleheader here. Hive looking to take one more game home, but Hurricanes are looking to deny that.
Well, we'll just have to see how this one plays out. Hurricanes start out with the solid defense off the clear. Moxon feels that fresh start, moves through the corner. Rogers is out for a shot, gets it behind, but it bounces up. Moxon unable to reach it. Too high for them. Hyper takes back control. Barnabas tries their hand at it. Off the corner, just waits for it. Has so much time here. Now, when I was saying earlier that you can't necessarily throw yourself at the ball, that is a time where you kind of need to. If you're allowing that much space, you're going to allow offense to come your way. And whether or not you like it. That's what you let happen. But the Hive have got some physical play in their back pocket, trying to pull an ace out of their sleeve. This one's difficult to defend, though. Barnabas just takes it, leaps over the fence, and to the hills, over the river, through the woods to grandmother's house he goes.
Yeah, finding the first. These solo plays have been the bane of the existence for the Hive right now. 1-0. Barnabas, he doesn't even have to do anything too terribly fancy. There's not much finesse on that shot. Just double jumps and it beats the defense. Hives right now, it's certainly frustrating. It's not the best thing to look at, especially since you're trying to take home the second game here, but you got to start willing this game to work a little bit more in your favor. Barnabas goes for the bump, just doesn't find the shot off the back of it. Hive look a little bit slow, look a little bit comfortable with just giving all the possession over to Hurricanes. That's absolutely what you cannot do right now.
No, you got to get on top of this. Hurricanes will pass by an open net, however. Moxon throws it up, finds a connection with Rogers and an open net awaiting them on the other side. Can they capitalize? Yes, they do. Hive are finally able to find a tie game after so long.
I was really worried Rogers was going to flip into that and just lose the ball in the corner, but he holds on to it, dribbles it well, hats off to him, puts in a great goal, puts it in the green net, and finds himself the equalizing goal. It's those mistakes that it can come down to. If you can force the most mistakes out of your opponent, you're most likely going to win the game, and that's it's a great exploitation right there out of the Hive to find that first goal. 90 seconds in, though, they definitely need more, and they're trying to get back on offense, but the defense is starting to lock back down for the Hurricanes. Moxon on the dribble, looking for a flick over the top, doesn't find any sort of power on that, but will keep the ball down in the green half. Hyper down in his corner, trying to work the ball out, trying to get anything going, at least somewhat favorable in his direction, because the Hive, they're continuing to play. They're not letting this ball see yellow trails whatsoever. It's a double commit in the corner, wide open net to shoot at, but they just don't have the proper angle. Hive can't convert there.
But they could convert here off the backboard. The bump on the Hurricanes defense could have created some opening space if they want it. Moxon fires a shot, Hyper off to the side. Moxon wants this boost. They know how valuable that's been all series long. Gets a touch, Barnabas clears long. Rogers in the retreat, has to regroup. Flick over Barnabas to the sidewall, might have another, loses control. Needs to go for this corner boost, they will. Doesn't allow the ball to advance very far, but good thing they put their priorities straight there. Sometimes you don't want to go for boost over ball, but when the boost game is as competitive as it has been, you might have to. And this one just slips through the cracks to give Hurricanes the lead.
Yeah, this is a great boost steal right now from Hyper. I mean, he gets it. It might not do that much, but it prevents Rogers from getting back. I guess he didn't even really have a shot at that one. It was a bit too far outside of his pay grade there. 2-1, though. Advantage, again, found for the Hurricanes. These teams like to duel it out, and they like to take the lead from each other, but currently the benefactors of this series have been the Hurricane. They've taken the lead the most, and, well, that's why they find themselves with the majority of the games and even the majority of the goals. The scoreboard matches the series scores. It's 3-1 now for the Hurricanes.
Ball is totally uncontested here. Rogers was trusting that Moxon was back, figured out too late that they weren't, couldn't get back to it. Hurricanes, just so good. The pressure is so great, and it's just because of this mix match between the Hive and these players that they've decided to play. Maybe, maybe it's an ML situation where everybody's struggling with numbers of players. Who knows? Maybe they had to play this pairing. I don't know what the story is, but it just doesn't feel like there's chemistry. This one actually going to be an own goal at the end of the day, or maybe Rogers pinched it off calculated from the defender. We'll have to see. Well, yeah, we'll call it calculated right off the back of the defender. That's one way to pick up a goal.
If you can force your opponent to score, that's a whole lot easier than working the ball down the field, so they do find the second there. It's a positive moving forward. At the very least, you put yourselves within striking distance of the Hurricanes, but you cannot be giving over the net that open. Moxon tries his best to own goal, it seems, but he does miss the target. He does hold on to possession, keeps it, and his corner. Hyper takes it away immediately. Moxon trying to get this ball out, but it's immediately shut down again. This Hurricanes chemistry, you were talking about it, Grant, it's on a different level than the Hive, and that's why this series, at least in this game, the control has felt so lopsided in favor of the Hurricanes.
There's so much spacing to go off of, too, with the Hive. They are, this whole time they've been playing it like a threes game, and they haven't realized that it's twos, or maybe they have, and they just can't flip that switch to get much going for them. They play so spaced out, taking these wide rotations, and it just leaves it to 1v1 the whole time. Like you said, 1v1 plays are not going to be the saving grace of this game for either side. And we're seeing that just go against the Hive. Every single time they rely on the 1v1s and they haven't found any success. That's been an issue since game 1, and they've yet to adjust it as we're now at the last game of the series, and they're just going to lose it because of it.
Yeah, but the Hive definitely still have a chance here. I do want to point that out. 45 seconds to find one goal is not that much. The problem is that there has been so much just inconsistent offense that turns into poor defense. Moxon just gives this one up at midfield, and Hyper's got a wide open net to shoot at. Barnabas doesn't even need to find a bump because Rogers isn't getting there in time. 4-2, 2-goal advantage found once again. It's now looking a little bit less likely for the Hive to come back. There's still time, but just what we've seen so far in this game does not boost our confidence whatsoever.
Oh no, Moxon wanted that one so soon. They knew they needed to beat the defender. They just rushed it. Barnabas with an open net. Can't get past Moxon. Hurricanes looking to just kill time off the clock. Hyper takes it back home. They know how important it is to have a 2-goal lead, but also how dangerous it can be. Air dribble not actually blocked. Moxon somehow broke through, but Barnabas breaks through the last defender. High up top. One more touch down. All the boost used. Hyper doesn't need to get to it because Hurricanes are going to walk away with a solid 4-1 victory in their belt. Maybe there's one for the road for Hyper, but there is not. This one, like I said, goes to Hurricanes. Very convincing victory. And hey, my prediction holds true, I guess.
Hive not able to take it at the end of the day. They had that one game one that was incredibly strong. We thought that they were looking good and they were going to upset the Hurricanes maybe, but that's all that she wrote. Hurricanes take home the next 4 back-to-back to back-to-back. It's a great start for the Hurricanes, or rather a great finish, I guess, as they close it out. Hive just not able to match that same sort of momentum that we saw in game number 1.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. We would have wished to see that Hive had done a better job, but that's just what they got to do next week. Take some notes. I know I dropped as much information I can to help them going into next week. Whether they use it or not is totally their choice. Hopefully they've got a coach to provide that same information, and hopefully more as well, because I am certainly not the best coach there is. Hopefully they've got a plan going into next week, but that's all we got for you guys for now. However, there is going to be another series. It's going to be Blizzard and the Ducks coming up next, so you're not going to want to miss this one. Stick around, get some popcorn, do what you got to do, and be here for the next one. We'll catch you in a minute.